You know, I'm really lucky to have mates like Baz. Baz lends me this little chipper whenever I need it. It's a perfect size, 6.5 horsepower, 4 inch. Actually, no, I think it's a 3 inch rated chipper. Perfect for a large domestic garden. But I always feel a little bit guilty when I borrow it. I always try to give it back in slightly better condition than when I got it. I've given it an oil change, I've serviced it many times, sharpened the blades, but I think it's time now for me to get my own.
This one that Baz lends me is the kind of quality that you'd expect from a hire centre. It's really good, but it comes at a price. It's worth $2,500. I'm not going to be spending that much. My plan is to either tidy up and sell my old lawnmower and get some monies towards it, or maybe even... No, I can't do that. That's a little bit too crazy.
So here we are now, right down the bottom end of my place, the woodshed. Normally stuff doesn't get taken out of here until winter time. I spend my time hurling offcuts of branches and waste timber in here, but underneath these branches and waste timber there is an old ride-on lawnmower. I'm going to have to do some clearing out to get it out, but this baby has got an 11.5 horsepower fully reconditioned motor, and I think I figured out a way of turning a ride-on lawnmower into a better branch shredder and chipper than I'm currently using. Let's pull this thing out and see if I'm right. Oh, 16 horsepower. I thought it was 11.5. Wicked. It's a good runner. It just needs a battery. And the reason it stopped being used was because it had a crack in the fuel tank. And even after a couple of Araldite attempts, it was still leaking fuel. So I just pushed it into a corner. Right. I'm now going to look at the feasibility of turning this into a wood chipper, and I was hoping to use the deck, but it appears that the deck's not here anymore. Damn, maybe I just buried the deck under here. Ah, there it is. Yay, yay, yay. I still have the deck. Now, even if the dimensions of the deck don't lend themselves to making a chamber and a chipping wheel, there's going to be pulleys and shafts and bearings that I can use off this. So I'll go and have a little figure out how this is going to work. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with how a chipper shredder works, basically we've got this huge funnel that directs branches and trimmings down into a rotating flywheel. That rotating flywheel is housed in a chamber that directs the air in at one end and out at the other. So it's a fan basically, but also what it is here's the blades for the fan. This is what causes the air to whiz around and pushes everything out of the chute. Heavy flywheel to give it momentum, and depending on the brand, either 2 or 4 blades. These are out of a high carbon steel so that they last, and they're bolted on with either 2 or 3 bolts so that they can be removed and sharpened when needed. This particular shredder has one close in and one out towards the outside. You'll see how there's a 1 centimetre gap between the cutting edge and the plate. So when the branches come down and hit the plate, the blade comes around and cuts everything into 1 centimetre shards. Now it's imperative that this thing remains balanced, because we don't want the machine wearing out its bearings prematurely. I'm going to have to make this and then do my best at both static and dynamic balancing using the equipment that I've got here. That will be a video in itself. Now, because the small motor of 6.5 horsepower would have difficulty in starting this thing spinning, it also has this lever here, and this lever lifts the engine plate and tightens the belt. It has 2 belts, and those 2 belts provide a good strong drive. Now, one of the problems I've got is that the lawnmower is set up with only 1 belt. So what I will do is I'll try it on a single belt system, and if it can't handle it, I'll just have to spend some money and get duplex belts. The chamber on mine is going to lie horizontal so that I can make use of my vertical shaft motor. This is a horizontal shaft motor. It drives the disc in a vertical plane. I'm going to be turning everything 90 degrees. Now that means that I can have a much larger flywheel with a much larger cutting capacity. I've got a whole 10 horsepower more than this one here. And it seems
that after looking underneath it, I'm going to have the option of making this thing self-drive. But right now it's got 4 half-flat tyres, and I've got to push it up a narrow, steep pathway up to the top end of the property. I was just wondering how I was going to do it when Rick came. Unfortunately, Rick didn't bring his crane truck, but he helped me drag it up to the top of the hill anyway. So now begins the shameless 12-second plug for my mate's Rick's business. Rick lifts and shifts. He's got a business called Mercury Bay High-Ab Services, and he picks up odd things and carries them all around the Coromandel Peninsula. And he's a good bugger. So if you're in the area and you need something lifted and shifted, go and have a look at mercurybayhiabservices.com. There you go, Rick. Now tens of thousands of people all around the world know all about Mercury Bay High-Ab Services. There were some loose fan shrouds and fans and nuts and bolts and things that I've just put in a safe place. Now I'm going to go and get the water blaster, I think, and give it a blowdown. And no point in starting work on it until I make sure that the thing goes. I seem to remember that the motor was fine, and the problem with it was a petrol tank leak that I couldn't easily fix. So I just shoved it down the bottom and left it. Anyway, let's give it a water blast. Isn't it nice when it stops? Right, what's next? After the steam clean, I whipped the spark plug out and made sure that it still had a spark. The battery is absolute toast because it's been here, by my calculations, 2016 was the last time I used it. So that's 7 years. Battery's toast. The oil needed a top up. It's got a spark. I've connected up another battery to it. If I wind it over and suck some fresh fuel through, it might even start. So let's give it a go. That's the choke setting. Right. So just watching out for fuel leaks, but it might even start. I'll have to lift my fuel can up a little higher. One more block of wood. Right, now I should have fuel supply. Right, you know what that means? That means that it's worth me doing the project. So what am I going to do? I'm going to turn this into 16 horsepower of wood chipping fury that I can jump on and drive around the property to where it's needed. So I hope you can share my vision. There's an excess of space underneath now that the mowing deck's been removed, and I will be able to get at least a 5-inch deep mulching chamber underneath there. It'll feed through a hole that's going to go down in the footplate, and this raised section with the mud guards and the seat on it is going to be removed completely, and the guards will get cut off, and that centerpiece that the seat sits on, to me, looks like half a feed hopper. In fact, I'm sure that if I replicate it and put the two together, I'm going to end up with a big feed hopper, and that feed hopper is going to go vertically pretty much where the front of the seat is now, and the feed hopper will be removable so I can sit on the stub of the feed chute and still operate those 2 foot pedals, the parking brake, the instruments and the steering wheel. So yeah, I can drive this thing around the property from job to job. Tomorrow I'm going to rip into it. Don't forget to look out for that video. There's going to be an awful lot of grinder dust, probably a few broken drills, and hopefully no sheared off bolts and threaded holes.